Sego and Osalaze, I'm Regan Jacobs.
And I'm Louis Jacobs. Happy 2023.
And Yawagoa for joining us today for Akwesasne TV's Year in Review. We'll be taking a look back at some of the highlights from 2022.
And I guess we'll start with the big change for Akwesasne TV and something that sort of started off our journey in 2022, which was ATV becoming a St. Regis Mohawk tribal program.
Yeah, we sure did. And that was a big transition for us because we officially launched as a company, as an LLC in 2015. And over the years, it just became more evident that we would be stronger as a program, both operationally and financially, and to have the support of the tribe and other programs, you know, to help us function better as a station. So it was a great decision.
Right, and a good transition. Yeah, one of the things that's been reinforced for me working under the tribe is the number of services available and the work that's done for the community to make Akwesasne a better place.
Yeah.
And we covered much of that over the course of the year. For example, the Environment Division and all of the work that they do with the tomato growing classes, the white corn harvest, and all the work done with the waterways, of course. And of course, health services, including mental health services, is amazing, especially over the last couple of years with the pandemic.
We're going through this pandemic. This is something that we've never, I don't think many of us that are alive have experienced. It's stressful, it's anxiety provoking, and it would be normal to feel anxious and depressed given this situation. So it's okay to be not okay.
Same with social services, and the list goes on.
Yeah, it does. It really does. You know, ACDP, like we've done a number of events that were far-reaching into the community in terms of services provided, and all the programs contribute to the betterment of this community, and we were able to capture that. I'd also like to add, you know, the emergency food giveaways that you did a number of lives from. I think there was 3. It was amazing to see the volunteers and all the programs, and of course Star Thomas, who has gotten better over the years. We always put her on the spot for interviews, and she does a great job delivering all that information.
All the information is great.
We have a declaration with FEMA, and FEMA is able to supply us with PPE and other items as a response to COVID, and we give this food distribution away so that people have enough food in their fridge if they have to quarantine and stay home.
And everyone's there in service of the community.
Right. Yeah.
You know, another series that we focused on was the celebration of our Indigenous culture. Many segments about Akwesasne and the traditions, the language passed down to the community, and the segments were super popular.
Yep. Very popular. So many of them. The corn washing segment with Chief Ron LaFrance.
Yeah.
Like the numbers were through the roof. But we won't talk about that. Also the skunk oil piece with Jessica Shenandoah and Norman Peters.
Skunk oil is something that we used to use more often. A lot of the elders and people in the community used to use it. It's really good as like a chest rub for respiratory conditions, and people used it for ear infection.
And of course, Thompson Island land camp, all of those skills that the students were taught out there, and we got some wonderful footage from when you and Brittany headed out by boat.
Yeah, by boat. Yeah, it was so much fun to be on Thompson Island and to see firsthand what the place is all about, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Another high point of the year for me, and I think for the community, was the return of the Akwesasne Powwow on Cornwall Island. And let's take a look at some of that amazing footage.
Before we start this whole event, we do spend time at the sacred fire up top, and we put some tobacco down for creators in Guayadisa to bring us a good day and take care of all of the guests who come from afar to spend time here in Akwesasne.
Yeah, that was a great segment. You guys produced it out well, and it looked like you were really having fun with it, just being back out there. And you know, that was after a couple of years of being on hiatus due to the pandemic. It was back in full force, and I think it was a great segment.
Yeah, people who saw the piece said I looked like, because she sort of sped up my walking, so people were exhausted from watching the piece, but it was actually great to be there. It was a beautiful day. I was with Gahandwaks, and everybody was in, great spirits. And we got the opportunity to chat with organizer Romaine Mitchell.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to get some insight into what it takes to put those things together.
Yeah, definitely. And it would be interesting to see what's going to happen with the powwow in 2023.
Right. Something else that was definitely a highlight for many people was the explosion of cannabis dispensaries on the territory.
Yeah.
And in March, of course, of 2021, New York State legalized the recreational use of cannabis, and many Akwesaslono jumped on the entrepreneurial bandwagon and set up shop.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk about how many dispensaries were operating in the community. There's about 47 to date, but there's 16 of those that are licensed by the St. Regis Mohawk tribe. So business seems to be booming, with that kind of support also. And one of the ones that we covered this year, which is co-owned by Jim Belushi. You met him at the, and did a live from that ribbon cutting ceremony.
Yep, we were there for the grand opening.
Well, let me speak to you really quickly about the success of the tribally licensed dispensaries on the territory. That seems to be going well. And are you feeling and sensing that sort of trickle down in terms of the money's coming back to the tribe?
Well, when you think
for
about
specific programs,
we're at that point now where we're going to start to determine where that money goes. Right now, it's going to run the Cannabis Control Board and the Cannabis Control Officer. But we are going to reach that point where now that our tribally licensed stores we're having more of them, and I've noticed that a lot of people are frequenting these stores. You'll see a lot of traffic here. You see a lot of traffic at the other tribally licensed stores. So that and that's what's good about our community, right? When you spend your money here, they say that it rolls over. $1 rolls over 7 times, right? And in a tribally licensed store, we can prove that, right? And not to saying that the other licensed stores don't do that, but we know for a fact that our money that we collect and our fees that we collect goes directly back into the community, because at the end of the day, it's all about consumer safety. Right, and it's about community safety, and we need to all get on board with the same regulations so that we can ensure that when somebody comes here, they're going to get good product, and when they leave here, they're not going to get sick. Right, so that's our main concern is public safety, not only for our community of Akwesasne, but the surrounding communities, because they all come here because we have good product here.
Right. Cannabis is a pathway to healing. The wellness of cannabis includes that of helping with Alzheimer's, PTSD, epilepsy, sleeplessness, hopelessness, pain, inflammation, and I'm glad to be able to bring this medicine to this community here.
Yeah.
And it's an honor to be here in Mohawk Nation.
Yeah, it was that day was fun, and the entire community turned out too. So that was, of course.
Yeah, and that was an epic broadcast too. That also went all over.
Well, when you're working with a Belushi. But the word on the street is that we'll eventually hit a tipping point with the dispensaries where the supply will surpass the demand, and many of the shops will most likely close down. But until then, it's business as usual, and a lot of business, I think.
Yeah. And another theme that we saw was employment and sort of picking up the pieces after the pandemic and getting Akwesaslono back to work, getting back to, life, some sort of ordinary life.
Right. We covered a lot of those events which were centered on the job fairs, summer employment, summer internship events, and they were all geared to just get people employed.
Yeah, and the tribe made it easy, it seemed, to get people in front of those directors, those program managers, to be interviewed. And we've seen some of those possibilities come to fruition this year. We covered a new segment, with Alexandra David, Mary LaFrance, and Sarah Boguette that became new program managers here at the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe.
I'd also like to mention the creation of our recent Spirit World piece.
I know from my feeling I got in the basement that some things went on here that weren't right.
After a sort of scandalous back and forth argument with another priest in Malone, New York. He was arrested, put in jail, and then
Fled to Canada.
and this was a highlight for me because, and I think all of us here at ATV, because it brought together so many components and all of the talents of our team. Not to mention coordinating the other folks who joined in with their expertise, Mohawk Mediums, for example, and all of the paranormal stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, and we took a little bit of a hiatus too from that. It's always been a popular show. And the amount of research on the back end that the team had to do, including yourself, really brought that that historical part of the, that broadcast to life. It's super important.
Right. The history of that particular Catholic church and rectory in the heart of Akwesasne really was pretty intense. So it was all very interesting, and I think we did a great job.
Yeah, and I think the community is looking forward to seeing more. They've definitely stopped me while I've been out in the community members, and been like, you guys should have used the cadaver dog, or, just came forward with some really great ideas and maybe places, like locations for future sites
well,
to
we'll have to check those out.
investigate.
I haven't heard about a cadaver dog before.
Yeah, I was at a local restaurant, and they stopped me and said, "Are you the ghost hunting lady?" And I'm like, "No, my team is though." But anyways, so finally we did a lot of coverage, or a little bit of coverage this year around some of our Mohawk athletes, especially with lacrosse. Always popular to cover lacrosse, especially with the kind of talent that we see in Akwesasne. And we had the Haudenosaunee Nationals going all the way to Ireland to play lacrosse, which included a few of our local athletes and local coach Jim Barnes.
Right?
Yeah.
How lucky was it for you to be there and to witness some of that?
Yeah, so I had obviously gone with my family to support my nephew who was playing on the team, and while I was down there I figured, well, let me just cover it. I'm here, on behalf of our station. I don't mind, it doesn't feel like work. It was just an amazing opportunity to see those young athletes step up on that international platform and really represent the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and of course, we were very much honored there as Iroquois players and people. That whole tournament was just very honored to have us there and the original inventors of that game.
Right.
So.
They have a great respect. The Irish have a great respect for that whole sort of lacrosse connection.
Yeah, and it really came out, even with the other players in the tournament that were just in awe of how our boys played and some of the technique that they used out on the field. It's like, things that you only learn in the community from people who have been playing for years, and those types of techniques are passed down through generations. So it was great being there. And also in terms of girls lacrosse, we covered a number of those segments and some of our girls that in local schools like Salmon River, winning scholarships to D1 schools.
I feel really good right now that I just signed, and I've been playing lacrosse since I was in pre-K, so just to be able to finally sign and get done through this whole recruiting process was just amazing.
And let's not forget about the torch relay, which happened just a couple weeks ago for the upcoming 2023 World University Games that will take place in Lake Placid in January. And local student athletes acted as torch bearers, running the torch from Generations Park to Mohawk School, where the message was one of peace and friendship as a prologue for the upcoming international competition.
Yeah, and that was a great event that we were there too, and it takes a lot of people to put something like this together. You had Tribal PD coordinating, the communications department, Brendan White and his team coordinating for months leading up to this, and of course our involvement in the 2023 World University Games. Right. So,
and you had the Adirondack Sports Council, all of those people here. Yeah.
And as Chief Ron LaFrance had mentioned in his interview when we were there, that our original Haudenosaunee lands reach all the way to Lake Placid. So an important key point for us, you know, to be part of that torch bearing.
And I think they knew that, you know, and wanted to, like the gentleman said, extend their hand in terms of representing everybody in the area. So.
Yeah. So those were just a few, you know, of the more interesting variety of things that Akwesasne TV covered this year, and also ways that we wanted to celebrate the community.
Right. Yeah, lots of celebration, I think, throughout the year. And for those of you watching, if you haven't seen any of those segments, you can go to our website. You can also go to any of our social media, especially Facebook, and everything is there beginning with January 2022 moving forward.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning, for example,
the murdered and missing Indigenous women. The tribe put a lot of focus on that this year, and then we also had Galunya Howie Thomas, who was with Tribal PD, appointed to Deb Holland's committee on that, you know, and that was a huge announcement. We had the opportunity to sit down and speak with her.
I had been selected or appointed to the Not Invisible Commission directed by the Secretary of Interior, Deb Holland. Months and months back, I had put my application in, not really thinking, you know, I would ever be considered, but really having a notion to want to try to bring some of the things that I've learned in the field, and being a mother and being an Indigenous person in a community, a message or ideas of change. Having done the work, I've inherited policies and procedures and always how we've done it type things, and some of those things don't work. And so my whole career I've been trying to push back on trying to re-implement things that do work for people, as simple as making the space more comfortable, or arranging for certain things for people to have, like food or a drink, or advocates right there.
But I just think, you know, we were at that march that day that the community did and the tribe organized, where we went right down 37, and there was like a tobacco burning.
So when we're aware and we're looking around and we're noticing things, what are we looking for? In the context of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and men, we look for violence in all its forms. The violence is not okay. It's never okay. See something, say something, address it as soon as you can, or at least report it. At least tell somebody, but don't be silent.
And it was just like a very, you know, empowering year in terms of shedding a lot of light on murdered and missing Indigenous women and young women, of course. So I was just really proud to be a part of that. And also really proud, you know, that Akwesasne TV captured a lot of great moments here in 2022. And we just really wanted to say, you know, start off our new year looking at that and wishing everybody a happy new year, and that we look forward to covering more in 2023.
Yes, we do. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for watching at home, and happy 2023.
Mana.